Beloved soul, if two people are truly meant to be together by divine design, there is one pattern that never fails to appear. It does not matter how different their lives are or how unexpected the meeting feels to them. This one thing always shows up first, without exception. Most people believe mistakenly that destiny looks soft and beautiful from the very beginning, like a fairy tale unfolding. They think it arrives as instant comfort, easy, uncomplicated love, and a feeling that everything has finally fallen perfectly into place. They imagine two people meeting under perfect circumstances, smiling at each other, and knowing right away without doubt that this is it, this is the one, this is forever. But real destiny does not work like that at all, beloved. Real destiny enters quietly, almost unnoticed at first, and then shakes everything in your world. It does not bring peace initially, it brings disruption. It disturbs what you thought you knew. When two people are genuinely meant for each other by heaven's design, the universe does not rush them carelessly into being together. Instead, it creates distance between them. It pulls them apart deliberately, challenges their beliefs about love, and forces them to face themselves honestly. It breaks illusions they did not even know they were living in, comfortable lies they told themselves. Type in the comments right now, "I believe in divine destiny." This is not just words. This is your spiritual declaration that you trust God orchestrates soul connections beyond human understanding. If this is your first time here, welcome to Angel's Whisper, a sacred space created for divine messages, spiritual insight, and prophetic understanding about soul connections, destined love, and the mysterious ways God works through relationships that seem impossible. This is a place where truth meets the heart, where heaven's wisdom explains why love hurts before it heals. I invite you to subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay connected, because every message shared here is meant to guide you into clarity about God's perfect timing in love. And this disruption is not cruelty from an uncaring universe. This is preparation from a loving God. If you believe two people can be truly destined by God, hit like right now. Because before two destined people can truly come together and build something lasting, they must first be changed individually, transformed separately. The myth of easy destiny. If two people are truly meant to be together, there is one thing that almost always takes place first. A pattern so consistent, it reveals divine orchestration. Many people believe destiny looks like instant joy without struggle. They imagine two people meeting, everything falling effortlessly into place, and life suddenly becoming simple, smooth, and easy. But real destiny does not arrive in such a gentle, comfortable way. Real destiny usually enters your life by disturbing it first, by shaking your foundation. When two people are genuinely meant for each other, the universe does not hurry them impatiently into love. Instead, it often pulls them apart temporarily. It breaks their false beliefs about what love should look like, challenges their expectations about relationships, and reshapes them as individuals through the fire of separation. This pattern repeats again and again throughout history, across cultures, in every generation. And that is the one thing that always happens. Separation before union. Disruption before peace. Type this: separation before union. This is the divine pattern you're experiencing. People often misunderstand completely what destined love really is at its core. They think it should feel comfortable from the start, like a safe place where nothing hurts or challenges them. But destined love rarely begins with comfort and ease. It begins with recognition at the soul level. The first sign of a deep, meaningful connection is not peace and tranquility. It is recognition that goes beyond logic. You meet someone and something inside you responds instantly before your conscious mind has time to understand what is happening or why. You may not feel calm in their presence. You may not feel secure and stable. You may not even feel sure about them or the connection, yet somehow you feel seen in a way that unsettles you deeply. It feels like they notice parts of you that you usually keep hidden, even from yourself, parts you don't show anyone. Psalm 139:1-2 says, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar." Destined love mirrors this, being known completely. Right in the comments, I felt recognized by them. This is the first sign of destiny. This profound recognition can feel confusing and disorienting because most people expect love to feel soothing and reassuring from day one. But destiny often feels uncomfortable at first, unsettling. This discomfort does not mean the person is wrong for you or a mistake. It usually means the opposite, spiritually. It means they reflect parts of you that you have been avoiding or denying. They mirror your fears, your unhealed wounds, and your unfinished emotional work that still needs attention. They do not see only the polished version of you that you show to the world carefully. They see deeper layers beneath the mask, and that can feel threatening to your ego. That is why destined connections often feel intense instead of easy, overwhelming instead of comfortable. They bring awareness and consciousness before they bring closeness and intimacy. This is also why people who are meant to end up together rarely stay together at the beginning of their story. Type boldly, intensity proves depth. This is reframing what you thought was a problem. The sacred separation. If two people are truly destined to share a future together, life almost always separates them early on in the connection. This separation is not accidental or random. It happens for specific divine reasons that serve both people. One person may still be carrying old emotional pain and trauma. One may be afraid to open up and be truly vulnerable with another. One may not yet understand their own worth before God. One may love from a place of fear and neediness instead of wholeness and completeness. Sometimes both people are still unfinished, still broken, and unfinished people, even with good intentions and pure hearts, can hurt each other deeply without meaning to. So destiny steps in decisively and creates distance between them. It says, "Not yet," clearly. It knows with divine wisdom that if these two people came together too soon, before the work was done, they would damage what could become something beautiful and meaningful. The separation, as painful as it feels in the moment, is part of the divine design. Write this: separation is preparation. This is the truth that brings peace. It is not punishment from an angry God. It is preparation from a loving Father. When destined people are separated by circumstances, the pain feels different from ordinary heartbreak you've experienced before. It is not only sadness and loss, it is confusion and disorientation. It feels like losing your sense of direction in life. You do not just miss the other person physically. You feel as if something essential inside you is missing, a piece of your soul. This happens because destined connections are not tied to the ego or to surface attraction. They are connected to spiritual growth and soul evolution. Comment destined if you've ever felt a connection that wouldn't leave you alone, no matter how much time passed or distance existed. When such a person leaves your life suddenly or gradually, it forces you to look inward at yourself. It pushes you to face things you have been avoiding for a long time, perhaps years. You begin to notice clearly your fear of being abandoned and rejected. You see how much you seek validation from others to feel worthy. You recognize your habit of giving too much of yourself to keep people close and secure. You become aware of how you avoid taking responsibility for your own emotional needs and healing. These realizations are uncomfortable and often painful, but they are necessary for growth. The pain you feel is not meant to break you permanently. It is meant to awaken you to truth. Hebrews 12:11 explains, "No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it." Separation is this discipline. Type this: pain awakens me. This is his accepting the purpose of suffering. The silent transformation. Destined love has a way of changing you quietly, without announcement. Even when there is no communication between you, even when there is only silence, something shifts inside you fundamentally. Even when logic tells you firmly to move on and forget, even when there is no contact at all for months, you begin to change. You become more aware of yourself and your patterns. You become more careful and selective about who you allow into your life and heart. You start being more honest about your feelings and your boundaries without apology. Things you once accepted without question no longer feel right to your spirit. Situations you used to tolerate patiently now feel draining and toxic. People you once chased desperately no longer hold the same appeal or power over you. Write in the comments, "I'm changing through the silence." This is recognizing transformation happening. You begin to desire genuine depth instead of surface attention and validation. You crave real soul connection instead of temporary comfort and distraction. Often, you do not even realize consciously that this growth is connected to that one specific person. But the change began the exact moment they entered your life. They acted as a divine trigger sent by God. They started a process within you that cannot be stopped. This kind of connection does not create obsession or unhealthy attachment. It creates reflection and self-awareness. You do not lose yourself thinking about them all the time obsessively. Instead, you start thinking deeply about your life, your patterns, and your choices. You reflect on who you are and who you are becoming through this experience. You start asking yourself deeper questions than before. Why do I love the way I do? Why do I fear closeness and intimacy? Why do I settle for less than I deserve? Why do I abandon myself for others? Type this: reflection, not obsession. This is the difference between destiny and attachment. These questions slowly reshape you from the inside out. Destined connections work in ways that are not obvious on the surface to casual observation. They may disappear completely from your daily life, but their impact remains permanent. They change fundamentally how you see relationships going forward. They change how you see yourself and your worth. They raise your standards not just for how others should treat you, but for your own behavior, choices, and self-respect. They teach you that love is not just about being together physically, it is also about becoming whole spiritually on your own first. Over time, you may notice that you are no longer willing to repeat old destructive cycles. You stop chasing people who cannot meet you emotionally where you are. You stop ignoring red flags just to feel chosen and wanted. You start valuing peace, honesty, consistency, and mutual effort above excitement and intensity. This growth feels natural and organic, even though it was born directly from pain and loss. And that is how you know with certainty the connection was meaningful and divinely orchestrated. Romans 8:28 promises, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Your pain serves his purpose. Write this: my pain has purpose. This is trusting the process. Destined love is not loud or dramatic. It does not always stay permanently in your life. Sometimes it comes, changes you fundamentally, and leaves. Sometimes it leaves so that you can become the version of yourself that could one day sustain real love without destroying it. Whether the person returns or not is not always the point of the connection. The purpose was the transformation, the awakening, the redirection toward a deeper, more conscious way of living and loving authentically. When two people are truly meant for each other, their story does not follow a straight, predictable line. It moves through distance, confusion, and inner work that looks like chaos. It forces growth before union. And that pattern, again and again, is the one thing that always happens without fail. Why they won't leave your mind. You think about them during moments when you are becoming more aware of yourself spiritually, during times when you are changing quietly from the inside where no one can see, during nights when everything around you feels still and your thoughts become louder than the world's noise. You think of them during emotional breakthroughs that arrive without warning or preparation. Moments when you suddenly understand something profound about yourself that you did not see before clearly. Type in the comments. They appear during my breakthroughs. This is recognizing the spiritual connection. You are not thinking of them because you are lonely and have nothing better to do. You are not thinking of them because you need attention or validation from anyone. You think of them because something deep within you understands that the connection carried meaning, and that meaning has not fully settled or completed yet. Your soul recognizes unfinished lessons that remain. It recognizes that something important was activated through that connection. This is not weakness on your part. This is not obsession or unhealthy attachment. This is not dependency in the way people often describe it negatively. This is integration, your inner world trying to place an experience where it belongs in your story, trying to absorb what it taught you, and trying to understand how it changed you permanently. A destined connection does not disappear simply because time passes or distance increases. It stays present in quiet ways that defy logic. It shows up when you grow. It shows up when you heal. It shows up when you outgrow old versions of yourself and old patterns. Write this: the connection remains. This is acknowledging what won't fade. That is because the connection was never just about romance and relationship. It was about transformation and spiritual evolution. Type yes if you want me to reveal the hidden truth about destined love that most people never understand. The irreplaceable nature. Many people ask why a connection like this cannot be replaced by someone new. They try desperately to replace it. They meet someone new and different. They enter new relationships hopefully. They distract themselves with conversations, activities, and routines that fill time. They convince themselves that moving on means forgetting completely. Sometimes they even believe they have succeeded in moving forward. Life looks normal again on the outside. They laugh, they socialize, they move through days. But beneath the surface, something feels incomplete and hollow. There is a subtle emptiness that does not go away no matter what they do. Not because the new person is unkind or inadequate, not because the relationship lacks effort or trying. It exists because the new connection does not awaken the same depth of soul. It does not challenge the same parts of the spirit. Comment irreplaceable if you've tried to move on, but nothing feels the same depth. A destined connection does not compete with others on the same playing field. It exists on a different level entirely, in a different dimension. This type of connection is not built on physical attraction alone. It is not about excitement or chemistry only. It is not about comfort or familiarity. It is about evolution and becoming. It is about becoming more honest with yourself than you've ever been. It is about being forced to face parts of yourself you may have ignored for years or your entire life. Destiny works on both people separately before it ever brings them together again in reunion. Distance is not a punishment from God. It is a classroom, a training ground. While the two of you are apart in different places, life is shaping you in different ways, often through discomfort and pain. One person begins to learn boundaries that protect them. They learn how to say no without guilt or over-explaining. They learn how to stop giving more than they receive in every relationship. They learn that love does not require self-sacrifice or self-erasure. They learn that choosing themselves is not selfish. It is necessary and biblical. Type this: I'm learning boundaries. This is your lesson in the separation. The other person begins to learn accountability and responsibility. They learn that silence can hurt deeply. They learn that avoiding emotions does not erase them or make them disappear. They learn that actions have consequences, even when intentions were unclear or good. They learn that real connection requires emotional responsibility. One person learns self-respect that doesn't fluctuate. They stop accepting uncertainty as proof of love. They stop waiting endlessly for clarity that never arrives. They realize that consistency matters more than intensity. The other learns emotional courage they lacked. They learn how to sit with discomfort instead of running immediately from it. They learn how to face vulnerability instead of escaping it through distraction. Separate lessons, same purpose. One person learns how to stop chasing what doesn't choose them. They recognize that love cannot be forced or manipulated. They understand that chasing someone who is not ready only creates imbalance, pain, and dysfunction. The other learns how to stop running from what they actually want. They realize that distance does not protect them from loss, as they thought. It only delays necessary growth and maturity. Write in the comments, we're learning different lessons. This is seeing the bigger picture. Both people are changing simultaneously, but neither can see the full picture yet of what God is doing. This is intentional divine design. If they saw everything too soon clearly, growth would stop prematurely. The unknown creates necessary space for transformation to occur. Comment, separated, if destiny ever pulled you apart from someone you felt was the one God sent. Before destined people can reunite successfully, illusions must fall away. The universe removes false beliefs slowly, often painfully, brick by brick. Beliefs like, love should never be hard or require work. Beliefs like, if someone truly cared, they would always stay no matter what. Beliefs like, love must be earned through suffering and sacrifice. Beliefs like, another person is meant to complete you and make you whole. These ideas feel comforting and romantic, but they damage real love severely. They create unhealthy dependence. They create paralyzing fear. They create unrealistic expectations that no human can fulfill. Proverbs 14:12 warns, "There is a way that appears to be right, but in the end, it leads to death." These beliefs about love appear right, but lead to death of the relationship. Type this: illusions are falling. This is what you're experiencing. So life strips them away forcefully. This stripping does not happen gently or comfortably. It happens through silence that hurts, through distance that aches, through disappointment that breaks, through moments when you are forced to sit alone with your uncomfortable thoughts. You begin to see yourself clearly without filters. You begin to recognize patterns you've repeated. You begin to understand where you abandoned yourself in the past for others. You learn that love is not meant to save you from yourself. You learn that another person cannot fill the spaces you have not healed within. You learn that real connection begins with wholeness and completeness, not emptiness and need. Share this video if you're going through a separation that feels spiritual, that carries meaning beyond human explanation. The moment of shift. There comes a moment when something profound shifts inside you spiritually. You stop needing them to feel okay. You stop checking obsessively for signs they're thinking of you. You stop waiting for a message to change your life and validate your worth. You stop hoping desperately that they will return so you can finally feel complete and whole. And that moment is not bitter or angry. It is peaceful and accepting. This is where destiny starts moving again in your favor. Not because you tried harder or did something right, but because you let go of needing a specific outcome from this connection. Write this: I let go of the outcome. This is surrender that unlocks destiny. Real love is not dependence or need. It is conscious choice. When both people can stand alone successfully and happily, when love becomes a desire instead of a survival tool, alignment begins naturally. If they return different and transformed. They return more aware of themselves. They return capable of something deeper than before. And if they do not return to you ever, the lesson still remains valuable. You are no longer the same person who entered the connection initially. You are stronger, clearer, more grounded in truth. You have integrated what was meant to be learned. That is the truth of destined connections from heaven's perspective. They are not about possession or ownership. They are about transformation and becoming. They come into your life not to stay forever in the same form, but to awaken you, change you, and guide you toward a deeper understanding of love, self-respect, and inner growth. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens." This includes seasons of union and seasons of separation. Type boldly, "I trust divine timing." This is faith over understanding. The return when ready. When people who are meant for each other come back into each other's lives, something feels quietly different from before. It is not loud or dramatic like the movies. It does not demand attention or create chaos. Instead, it feels steady and solid. Your body relaxes before your mind even understands why you feel calm. There is less tension in your thoughts, less fear about what might go wrong this time, and far less ego trying to prove something or win. You are no longer performing or protecting yourself the way you once did defensively. What shows up instead is honesty, the kind that feels natural and unforced, the kind that does not need lengthy explanations or defensive justifications. Write in the comments, "The return feels different." This is recognizing maturity. The connection feels calmer because both people have already faced chaos on their own separately. It feels deeper because they have looked inward honestly and seen their own shadows. It feels clearer because illusions have already been broken through pain. It is not perfect, and it never pretends to be perfect or without challenges, but it is aware and conscious. There is consciousness in how words are chosen carefully, how silence is respected without panic, how boundaries are honored without resentment. There are no games being played anymore, no hidden intentions or agendas, no need to test each other's feelings constantly. There is no confusion about where you stand with each other. There is simply recognition, like meeting a familiar truth again, only this time with maturity and strength behind it. And sometimes, even with all of this growth and readiness, those people do not return to each other physically. This is one of the hardest truths to accept about destiny. Yet the destiny between them was still real and divinely orchestrated. The connection was not imagined or made up. It was not a mistake or wasted time. Type growth if this message is awakening something deep inside you that needed to hear this. Sacred purposes beyond union. Not all destined connections are meant to last forever in physical form. Some are meant to exist only long enough to change you fundamentally. Some are meant to enter your life, shake your inner world violently, and then leave once their purpose is complete and the lesson learned. There are connections that come into your life specifically to break cycles that have been passed down through generations in your family. These are the relationships that expose patterns you learned long before you had conscious choice. They reveal where love was confused with sacrifice in your upbringing, where attachment was confused with safety, where silence was confused with peace. These connections force you to see what you have been carrying that was never truly yours to carry. Write this: breaking generational cycles. This is the purpose you didn't see. They bring buried pain to the surface so it can finally be healed and released instead of repeated with your own children. Other connections come specifically to teach you self-love when you have been neglecting yourself chronically. They mirror back clearly how you allow yourself to be treated by others. Through them, you see where you settle, where you shrink yourself, and where you abandon your own needs just to keep someone close. They awaken you to the truth that love should not cost you your dignity, your voice, or your sense of self. These lessons are painful, but they are necessary for wholeness. Without them, you might have continued giving too much and asking for too little. Some destined people awaken emotional depth within you that was dormant. They make you feel things you had numbed yourself to after past pain. They remind you that you are capable of deep care, vulnerability, and connection. Even if they leave you more open than before. Type in the comments: they awakened my heart. This is gratitude for the gift. Others redirect your entire life path in a new direction. Meeting them changes the choices you make, the standards you set, and the direction you move in. They do not stay because their role was never to remain permanently. Their role was to prepare you for what comes next in your story. That does not make these connections meaningless or insignificant. It makes them sacred and holy. Sacred things are not always permanent in form. They are important because of what they awaken inside you, not because of how long they last in your life. Why destiny feels harsh. Many people wonder why destiny feels so harsh and painful before it ever feels gentle and loving. Why it seems to take things away instead of giving generously. The truth is that destiny does not exist to protect comfort and ease. Comfort keeps you stuck in familiar patterns, even when those patterns hurt you slowly. Destiny exists to protect your potential and purpose. Comment, recognize if you've ever felt that instant soul recognition with someone, that knowing beyond explanation. It will allow your heart to break temporarily before it allows your soul to slowly disappear and die. It will remove people from your life decisively before it allows you to lose yourself trying to keep them. In the moment, this feels cruel and unfair. You replay every detail, searching for answers. You question your worth relentlessly. You wonder what you could have done differently to change the outcome. You feel abandoned by something you trusted completely. But time slowly reveals what pain could not explain in the moment. With distance, you begin to see clearly how staying would have kept you trapped in an older version of yourself. You begin to understand that leaving forced growth you were avoiding. Write this: destiny protects my potential. This is trusting what you can't see. There is one truth that appears again and again in destined connections throughout all of human history. When two people are truly meant to be together, they are often forced to grow separately first before coming together.